Now I'm gonna hand the stage to our experienced speaker, Anthony Malgapo.
All right, thank you, Martin. I appreciate the opening there, and welcome to the CIE DFW AWS Deep Racer Workshop session number 1 for 2024. I'm your host, Anthony, and that was just Martin. So to start off, we actually did this last year, so we have a promo video for you.
Welcome to the 2023 CIE DFW AWS Deep Racer Workshop. CIE USA is a national organization started more than 100 years ago. CIE DFW is one of the largest nonprofit professional organizations in the DFW area. It's our mission to enable the growth of current and aspiring engineers and technologists. Thank you for participating in today's event. I hope you find it fun and learn something new from our speakers.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Tiger. Okay, so a little bit about me. My name's Anthony. I'm actually not in the DFW area. All right, so what exactly is Amazon Web Services Deep Racer, right? That's where machine learning comes in. It's the subgenre of artificial intelligence in which machines imitate how humans learn. So, but basically what I wanted to showcase here is that they're using closest waypoints. And then we'll go over the learning rate, entropy, and discount factor, because those are kind of way more punishing if you change those drastically. You don't really have to read, and he really gives, he kind of regurgitates exactly what the course does. So I'll just open it up to a 10-minute Q&A if anyone has any questions. I'll be looking at the chat. So in my opinion, if I were to retrain this model, I probably wouldn't start from scratch, but I definitely add that distance from center parameter that I talked about. And as you can see, this is another one of those models. I think it's trained very well. Really good apex there. Not on the first turn, but the second and third were really good. Really awesome snake part. As you can see, this model is trained so well to stay on the yellow line. Cool. So that was that's exactly what happened last year in a span of 2 minutes, as best as I can put it. So thank you for participating if you're here from last year, and if you're new, thanks for joining us. Hopefully we can push that out even for our second workshop that we're having later on.
Welcome to the 20.
Okay. So what you'll be learning in this video is basically summarized within this slide here. As you saw, that was the promo video. You'll be getting to know a little bit about me if this is your first time around. I'll be teaching you obviously what AWS Deep Racer is, what artificial intelligence is, AI, what machine learning is, which is the subgenre of AI that we're using, and then even a subgenre of that, which is reinforcement learning. So we'll just try to dive deep into the foundations as much as possible, and then finally get to the nitty-gritty in the coursework. After that, we'll show you that we have a Discord ready for you and prepared, and hopefully you can join that within this call. We're also going to be creating an AWS account if you don't have one yet. I'm honestly pretty sure we can skip an Amazon account because of some new changes that happened on the learning aspect of AWS. So then I'll show you how to basically create an account for AWS Builder, which is the AWS area for learning Deep Racer, the coursework aspect. So after doing that, after creating an account there, we'll actually do some of the coursework. Now this course takes 4.5 hours estimated time by AWS themselves, but we're really only going to be doing the first exercise together, which is building our first model. And the good news is that we're differing from last year because we're hosting an object avoidance race. So it's a little bit different in the sense that the code will be implementing some object avoidance reward functionality, which I find very interesting. And I did train something today as a test, and it looks really good. So, and really interesting and fun. So hopefully we get to add on to that from last year. I actually have an additional slide from that's different from last year as well, where we're going to be seeing what good training and evaluating looks like when it comes to building the model. So this way it kind of sets you up for success as you compete with us. And then I'll actually show you how the competition works and how the grading criteria is. It's very similar to last year. Again, we're just adding objects. So a little bit about me. If you weren't here from last year, or if you are here from last year, I'm sorry to regurgitate, but my name's Anthony. I actually did switch some things around here. So I'm from Clinton, New Jersey. I actually don't live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but I'm so happy to say that I volunteer for this organization. It's such a wonderful organization. We get to give back to students like you who actually take the time out of your days and out of your vacations to learn. So I found it so fun. I graduated from an area in Union, New Jersey called Kean University with a bachelor's in computer science information systems. So Clinton, New Jersey is actually really cool. It's very rural and westward towards PA, which is also very rural. So I grew up very laid back, very slow moving. And then when I went to college in Union, New Jersey, that's more towards the East Coast. You're like 20 minutes away from New York City. So it's very hustle and bustle. It's very fun and active. Um, so I have a bachelor's in computer science information systems, and all that means is instead of taking a track that focuses like towards user experience programming or user interface, like building websites and things like that, I chose to be more back end oriented. That means like more data, what's behind the UI that brings everything together in terms of all the information that you see and analysis and things like that. So I got to choose that track thanks to my university. So this is actually my 3.5 year at Verizon as a data analyst. Funny enough, I'm actually colleagues with Martin. We've been actually really collaborating a lot this year, more so than most years. So it's been very fun. We collaborate very well as teammates, and I think he gives me a pass in saying not only am I a data analyst at this point, but I get to say that I'm a data engineer and a data scientist at this point. We get to work with generative AI and things like that, like groundbreaking new technologies within our space, and it really gives me the freedom and the fun at work. So on a foundational level, I work within databases, SQL querying, a little bit of Python code, and what we call Tableau, which is just UI software to ensure that the analysis that we do is actually human readable for like higher ups and our managers and things like that. So on a basic level, that's just how I work. And then aside from my career, I absolutely love cars. I love racing, motorcycling, and gaming. So that's exactly why I find so much passion within AWS Deep Racer, because it really brings my career and my fun and fuses it together, right? So we get to use artificial intelligence and compete in a friendly manner with some racing. So we'll get into that. So yeah, exactly what is AWS Deep Racer? So it's basically an Amazon Web Service that was created by Amazon to introduce new aspiring students and anyone who's interested in artificial intelligence on a fun, foundational, simplistic level to learn more about it and kind of just introduce you to artificial intelligence in general. So again, it's good old racing fun. What's really cool about Amazon Web Services Deep Racer is that they've actually developed like a league for it. So if you're like the fastest in the world, they actually fly you out to what looks like Singapore in this in this photo, right? And then you get to toy with a physical Deep Racer car and a physical Deep Racer track. Whereas today we're going to be learning on just the virtual area, which is called RoboMaker. It used to be called SageMaker, but now it's called RoboMaker. So as I said, it's good old racing fun. It's really interesting just to work in this space, even on the virtual level, and it's fully autonomous. I mean, we're just basically holding its hand as it learns and reinforces itself to learn even better and go around the track faster and faster and faster, right? In the most efficient and effective manner. And as I mentioned, there's a league for it, which you can kind of take into your own hands if you really enjoy this coursework today. So here's what artificial intelligence is, and in the more detailed sense, reinforcement learning. So artificial intelligence, um, just from a definition standpoint, is the development of computers to handle human work, right? So that's basically training computers to think like a human and operate like a human so they can get work done, right? So machine learning is a subgenre of that where we have the machines imitate how humans learn, right? So the best example that I could think of that's apart from last year's is think of how you train a puppy, right? You have to reinforce good behavior. So if you train a puppy how to sit, you usually do it with the reward function of giving it treats, right? So if you say sit to the puppy and it doesn't sit at first, you don't give it a treat because that would be reinforcing it in a bad manner, right? You're teaching it bad levels of training. So as soon as the puppy sits and you reinforce it with the treat, hopefully it learns throughout time, right? Oh, this is good. I'm getting food, which I really like food. Whenever I listen to my human. So that's exactly kind of like exactly what we're doing with reinforcement learning, which is the subgenre of machine learning, in the form of just calculations. So we determine what a reward function is. We give a calculation to it, and we supply the machine with that reward when it does things correctly. You can actually see this being done right now with some real world examples, such as like AI art. As you can see there, there's an anime style of Coruscant from Star Wars. If you're a big nerd like me, you know exactly what the planet Star Wars or what the planet Coruscant looks like in Star Wars. It's very city-like. So that's just an AI generated photo of that, right? And then I can also mention Tesla Autopilot. So that's literally AWS Deep Racer on the company-wide scale, where there needs to be safety features and all these things, all done just via cameras and sometimes lidar, or I'm sorry, radar. But I think from the in a detailed manner, Elon is just going with the cameras at this point. So I found that very interesting. Okay, so next is just our Discord. I have a QR code here for you that's been updated, as well as a link. I think I can. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I should show the video, right? Totally forgot to show the video. Please
Racing,
share.
the world's first
Enjoy this video on AWS Deep Racer that we shared last year. Sorry about
global autonomous racing league, AWS Deep Racer. Since launch, over 140,000 developers from more than 150 countries have participated. And this year, the Deep Racer League is more accessible than ever before. With the all-new Student League presented by Intel, high school and college students worldwide can compete for scholarships, prizes, and glory. Students can get rolling with just a few clicks, no credit card required. All new AWS Deep Racer arcades will let you skip the coding, grab the wheel, and race head-to-head against AI. Compete from anywhere in the world in monthly virtual circuit races. And the Summit Circuit is back in person on physical tracks across the globe with more chances to qualify for one of 50 coveted spots in the championships at reInvent. Discover how you can accelerate your machine learning journey at deepracerleague.com.
Okay, so there was that video. As you can see, this was an older video back in 2022. My first experience with AWS Deep Racer was actually in 2018.
Let me show you how we do stuff around.
So I know, sorry about that. So I know that they were hosting a league even back then. So thanks for that reminder. Actually, Martin reminded me to play that video. So thanks for that. Again, here's the link to Discord. Let me share that in the chat just in case. I'm in presentation mode real quick. Just so if anyone doesn't have that QR code or your phone handy, you can have that. Did I share that with meeting group? Okay. So there's that. Yep, so I think my that's what you're hearing is my Discord going off. I think friends are joining us, which is good. Forward, please. Okay. So the first thing that we're gonna do that requires some hands-on with you today is just creating an AWS account. You can I'll share this link as well. And we can basically do this together, but I do have some screenshots here. So what you'll be clicking on is creating a new AWS account. You'll be putting in your root user email address. As you can see, we have a CIE DFW one that I use, but you should just use your personal one if you're absolutely brand new to it. And then you basically just have to create an AWS account name with that. So after that, you're gonna have to verify a code that's sent to your email address. It should be like a 6-digit code, and that should really just complete that for you. After verifying that, you should be able to create a password. You're just gonna put in some contact information as well. And then you will need a default credit card. Don't think that we're gonna be using it at all. That's just what needs to happen with an AWS account, is you just need to have a credit or debit card on file. And we won't be purchasing anything at all today. It's absolutely free. Just a requirement. So please, if you have any questions on how to create an AWS account, or if you don't have one already, feel free to put it in the chat. I think Martin and I will stay vigilant on, staying on top of that to help you. I can do it on this call. We can do it in the Discord, one-on-one, however you guys want to do it. I guess I'll try to demonstrate that. Account. Oh, was I saying Amazon account this entire time? I meant AWS account. Yeah, we're actually skipping the Amazon account. So let me sign into the console. Already thinks I'm signed in. There we go. So this is exactly what it looks like. In terms of a demo, you're gonna choose root user, or I'm sorry, you're gonna create a new AWS account. You're gonna put in your email address, just like I shared. I'm not gonna do any of this, but that's exactly what it looks like. That's how to get there. So let's say you've been logged out before, just to log in. This right here is actually suggesting it to me. I'm gonna sign in. And this is basically what the console looks like. Now, to access AWS Deep Racer, let me just make sure I'm not skipping out on any pages here. Oh, let me re-explain this one too. I didn't explain part 3 here. So after verifying and continuing your billing information, you're going to confirm your identity, like it seems like. You really, okay, it looks like you do need a mobile phone number to do that. And then there is a security check after that. So even after verifying that, you'll choose basic support, which is free. As you can see it's free, and just complete the sign up for AWS after that. Sorry, I almost forgot the slide. So that's that. I think there was one thing I needed to demonstrate before moving on as well, is finding AWS Deep Racer on your console home. You simply just need to, I think this is as easy as just going onto services. Yeah, and then finding that service there. You actually don't even need to click this. You just need to click the search bar and then click on AWS Deep Racer. And then you'll be within that service itself. So this is what that service looks like. Okay, so we'll just leave that tab open. Yeah. Sorry, concurrent sign-ins. Okay. Okay, I'm hearing the Discord, sorry. And we'll just move on. So what's cool about this year, apart from last year, is you don't need an Amazon account anymore. In fact, we will need another account, but it doesn't include Amazon accounts. So we're gonna be skipping this area. You can tell by the red X's. And then we're gonna be going straight into the Deep Racer course. So I have this link for us, which is just the skill builder. It looks exactly like this. Let me try and log out for you guys. And then I'll demo it after these next few slides. So after clicking on the AWS skill builder, let me share that as well. Oh, there we go. That. So there's the sign in for AWS Skill Builder. What had happened and what I had showcased last year is that you needed to sign in to AWS Skill Builder with an Amazon account, which is not the case this time around. They actually changed it at the end of January this year. So we could just read this together. As of January 31st, 2024, login with Amazon is no longer available for use to sign in to the AWS training and certification offerings. If you previously used login with Amazon to sign in, use your AWS Builder ID or create one. You'll be prompted to link your AWS Builder ID to the existing profile if they share the same email. So mine happened to share the same email, so I have screenshots for you. But let's say this is your first time building an Amazon Web Services Builder ID. You'll be clicking create or sign in right here. Inputting that same email address that you used for the AWS account. That would be the most smart thing to do. Creating a password and then verifying through that email another passcode, a verify passcode. Should be 6 digits once again. If you're like me and you had an Amazon account linked to AWS Skill Builder, then you'll be actually seeing this set of screenshots here. So validate with login with Amazon to link. It's as simple as just clicking that orange button, and then you just have to update some personal info. So first name, last name is what I put in, my email that auto-populated, and then the only thing that I had to put in was the country and region right here. Everything else is unrequired. So after clicking the orange continue button, you'll be sent off to the UI, which looks like this. Nope, sorry, looks like this, or it should look like this. Oh, let me sign in first. Oh, that's weird. Oh, there it is. Sign in. Okay. This is a brand new UI since I've created one. Okay, and it's as simple as that. So it knew my login information. And this is what the learner dashboard looks like. Now, if you're brand new and you don't have a course yet for AWS Deep Racer, I'll show you how to do that now. This is the learner dashboard. To find the business or personal, you would click personal for sure. So Aria asked, do I click business or personal for signing up? Should always be personal at this point for all these students in here. The next thing I wanted to show you. Yeah, Martin, was that you?
Yeah, I think it should be always the personal for signing up instead
Yes.
of business.
Agreed. All right. So next thing, after logging into the skill builder, you'll most likely see my course is empty if this is brand new to you. All you'd need to do is go to course catalog down here. After clicking this top left, left header, go to course catalog here. I did this last year as well, and that's why I choose to do this now. But all you would need to type in is Deep Racer. You don't need to, I don't think it's case sensitive. Hit the search bar. And then what you'll see is Deep Racer in different, what are they called? Different, oh my goodness, I'm blanking. Languages. Goodness gracious. Languages, guys. I know English. So here's the English one. It says EN. You can separate them from the there's like a time, an estimated time of how long the course will take. And then, DE for, I guess, German, which is a little bit weird, but EN for English. So that's what you should look for, is that one. There's different ones, Indonesian, Korean, Japanese. So obviously we want the English one. So enroll to that. It should be as simple as clicking the course catalog. And then there should be an enroll button, but since I'm enrolled already, it tells me I can start learning now. So I'll wait here a few minutes and then we can actually start the coursework, because this is basically where we're going to be deep diving into the into building a model and really learning about AWS Deep Racer. This is the course. Yeah, let me read the synopsis down here. I didn't do this last year, so This course is designed to give you hands-on experience with reinforcement learning by helping you build, train, and deploy models in AWS Deep Racer so you can compete in the official AWS Deep Racer League. The course starts off by orienting you to AWS Deep Racer before diving into reinforcement learning. You'll have several opportunities to build, train, and evaluate your own reinforcement learning models and then deploy them to the physical car or the virtual car in our case. By the end of the course, you'll have your own optimized reinforcement learning model that you can enter into a virtual or physical circuit of the AWS Deep Racer League. This is course level intermediate, and the duration is as far as 30 minutes. But really, it's pretty simple, especially with the help that I'm giving you today. Okay, so hopefully that's enough time. And just like last year, we're going to hop into it. So as you can see, there's 6 basically full lessons here. We're basically going to stop at, I think it's test drive. Let me see. Yeah, pretty much test drive. And then we'll actually get into RoboBanker after that. So let's just watch these, let's read along here and watch these videos. So start your engines, the overview. Welcome to chapter 1 of this course. This chapter introduces you to the main topics and flows of the course and provides a quick overview of how reinforcement learning drives AWS Deep Racer. You'll get a chance to see an unboxing of the actual car and even its assembly. But first, check out the trailer to get yourself revved up.
And we're gonna teach you all about it. Hello everyone, I'm Blaine Sundred, and I'm here to show you how these 1/18th scale race cars are fully autonomous. Participants will learn all about how reinforcement learning drives AWS Deep Racer and how to join the global Autonomous Racing League or compete virtually from anywhere in the world. Hope to see you at reInvent 2019. Let's get rolling.
Okay, guys, sorry about that. I was helping a student out. And my chat's gone. 1 second as I open up chat. Okay. So that was just the trailer. As you can see, there was the physical car next to the helper there. So obviously we're just doing everything virtually. So drivers, start your engines. This video dives a little bit deeper into the overall topics addressed throughout this course and introduces you to the AWS Deep Racer League, which you'll learn more about later.
Welcome to AWS Deep Racer, driven by reinforcement learning. I'm Blaine Sundred with AWS Training and Certification. This course is designed to give you hands-on experience with reinforcement learning by helping you build, train, and deploy models in AWS Deep Racer so you can compete in the official AWS Deep Racer League. To that end, we'll talk to you about the physical components and technical specs that make up the device and how to assemble it. We'll then dive into what reinforcement learning is all about and how it's the engine behind AWS Deep Racer. We'll give you the opportunity to get hands-on and actually start to build and train your own reinforcement learning models in AWS Deep Racer. Then we'll really start to have some fun by deploying your optimized models to both simulated and real AWS Deep Racer environments. This will allow you to compete in the AWS Deep Racer League, the first global autonomous racing league. It's open to anyone, and it culminates in the Championship Cup at reInvent in Las Vegas. The league includes both a virtual and a physical circuit for you to compete in, which you can do at upcoming AWS summits. The fastest times from each event wins a ticket to reInvent. Points will also be awarded to the top 10 positions on the league leaderboard, which will accrue regularly up to reInvent itself. So, are you ready? If you are, and if you're excited as I am to get started, let's join DeClark Wenzel from the AWS Deep Racer product team for a more in-depth introduction into this exciting new device. Hope you enjoy the course.
Right. So, what is AWS Deep Racer? Am I on mute? Okay. What is AWS Deep Racer and reinforcement learning? In this video, oh gosh, I don't want to butcher this person's name, but Mr. Mr. Wenzel from the AWS Deep Racer team goes a little deeper into what reinforcement learning is and how it powers AWS Deep Racer.
Hello, and welcome to this course on AWS Deep Racer and the AWS Deep Racer League. I'm DeClark Wenzel, a Senior Product Manager with the AI Devices org, and I'm thrilled you're here. Throughout this course, you'll learn how to interact with the AWS Deep Racer from end to end, from assembling the car to understanding reinforcement learning, building and optimizing models, and finally, how to compete in the AWS Deep Racer League. But before we dive into all of this, let's take a minute to talk about the vehicle and what's underneath the hood. So what exactly is AWS Deep Racer? AWS Deep Racer is a fully autonomous 1/18 scale racing car that's capable of performing in both a virtual and physical world. It was built to support aspiring machine learning developers who want to get hands-on and have fun doing it. So what does reinforcement learning have to do with all of this? Reinforcement learning is the auto in autonomous car, and it's what powers AWS Deep Racer. Reinforcement learning is one of three types of machine learning: supervised, unsupervised, and reinforcement learning. We'll get to the first two in a little bit, but for now, it's important to know what reinforcement learning models do. They learn via an agent that interacts with an environment and is then positively or negatively rewarded based on the decisions it makes. So think about training a dog. If your dog does something good, you'll give it a reward. If it does something bad, you won't reward it. And over time, it'll learn based on the outcomes of its actions, which actions are actually good actions. So you will incentivize the correct behavior. And that is what reinforcement learning does to our model. So for us, that agent is AWS Deep Racer, and the environment within which it's operating is the track. And what is a race car and a track without a little friendly competition? At the end of this course, we'll talk a little more about the AWS Deep Racer League. So now that we've talked a little more about the vehicle, let's dive right in and unbox one.
Great. I just realized that I stole his his metaphor with the puppy, so I apologize for that. I did find it really funny that I only noticed it now. Let me pull back chat up. I don't know why every time I press escape, removes chat. So we don't have to watch this part because we're not buying a physical car. You can actually buy a physical car, I think, for like under $200, but there's no need. I mean, RoboMaker is such a great virtual environment for the car itself, so we'll just be using that. I think we also skipped this, and then we just went through test drive at this point. Yeah. So as you can see, this is the AWS track. What I really liked just thinking about on a critical level is that the environment is never changing. I mean, the track can change, right? And we can give different turns and things like that. And we're going to be going over object avoidance. But I just realized like the boilerplate code understands what the center line is and what off track means and on track means simply because the environment is stabilized, like meaning it's static, right? We're not taking the yellow dash lines and making them like just a line, like a single line. You have to realize how complex it can get when you think of like Tesla Autopilot, where it has to identify stop signs, it has to know what like a crosswalk looks like, what humans look like, and there's just so many things that we don't get introduced to that are real world scenarios, where this is just a training environment. So I found that really cool to think about. Um, as I was going through this coursework again. So test drive. This is the second lesson. Overview. In this chapter, you'll get hands-on with AWS Deep Racer by building, training, and evaluating your first reinforcement learning model. But first, get started by watching Blaine and Michelle drive their own cars around the track, and then learn a little bit more about the workflow behind AWS Deep Racer. Around the track with Blaine and Michelle. Sorry, did I say Mitchell? Whoops, Michelle. In this video, watch Michelle test her first AWS Deep Racer model on the track. Her time may be a good benchmark to aim for once you've optimized your first model.
Okay, it's going on the track. You got this one. Here it goes. Down. No, stay on, stay on, stay on. Okay, we got this in. There it is. Nice,
yes.
nice, nice. Time. 67 seconds.
Woo!
Good. That's a good first time around.
Thank you. So what was your first time around?
68, so better than
Okay.
mine. Now my current time, 41 seconds.
No way.
41's my current time.
That's awesome.
Developers, I'm here with Michelle, and we're having fun getting our fingers dirty on the track.
Yeah.
So as we talk about differences in time, the way you get there is one of the cool things about Deep Racer and reinforcement learning itself. It's being able to look at all the options and the parameters and the hyperparameters, and each one of those are knobs you can turn and tweak, and sometimes you get a little improvement, sometimes you'll see a really big improvement. Sometimes you'll just experiment and it might work and it might not, but you'll learn from that as well.
That's awesome. As a curriculum developer, it's the first time I've ever touched something like this, and it's amazing to get it to actually work.
Well, you know, and that's the fun thing is you can get an immediate good response.
Yeah, so I have to ask, if I keep tweaking this, I keep playing, am I gonna be able to get to 41 seconds?
Well, the truth is you'll probably do better than me. There's
Nice.
a lot of people right now on the leaderboard that have times better than mine.
Wow.
So with that, we're gonna go ahead and go back into the simulator and learn how to tune your models, and eventually get right back on the track.
All right, there we go. So they were basically just introducing you that there was a car that they inputted their models in, and it had gone around the track autonomously. So that was pretty cool. So here we go. AWS Deep Racer workflow. In just a minute, you'll have a chance to get into the AWS Deep Racer console and build your first model. But before doing that, let's take a walk through the workflow behind AWS Deep Racer. Throughout this course, you'll get to dig in deeper to all of these separate steps. But for now, just take a minute to understand what's happening at a more superficial level. Whether you end up racing on a virtual or physical track, you'll want to start in the simulated environment. Building, training, evaluating, and repeating that process until you've optimized your model enough so that you think it's ready to compete. Then, if you'd like, you can deploy it to the actual physical car. Cool. Oh, this is actually really good too. So this is a diagram that shows you start to finish basically. So you create a model, right, of reinforcement learning, and basically you start by configuring it. You know, all the things from like the degree of angle to turn, as well as like top speed, low speed, things like that. And then you give it the reward functions and hyperparameters so that it trains correctly or to the liking of your manner. So that's that portion as well. After it's completed training, you start to evaluate it. How well does it do like in the environment that you give it? Was it trained correctly for that environment, or is it failing a lot? So you'll be able to see that. So depending on whether it fails or you're very confident in your model that it's succeeding, you'd most likely want to clone that model. I think that's something that maybe we didn't emphasize enough last year, was that I think students were creating different models per environment. We did have 2 competitions, so I think they created different models. But let's say that the first model that you create is pretty good at just going you know, through a basic track, like really good at turning left and really good at turning right. You can actually clone that model and just call it like your average, or like, you know, it's a model that's fairly good, and you start adding objects for it to avoid on a track. So at that point, you can reconfigure a model rather than create a new model, and then retrain on based on that average clone already. So it saves that knowledge that it had from training and evaluating from before, and then retrains based on like the next thing that you want to train furthermore, which would most likely be object avoidance. So that's something that we have to think about rather than creating new models every time. You want to have a really good model established at first and then retrain based upon that. So I definitely wanted to use this diagram to showcase that. This all starts with creating a model in the AWS Deep Racer console. You use the console for model configuration. Once built, the simulator is used to train and then evaluate your model. The simulator is a great tool. You can see in real time how your model is responding to the settings you've chosen. After your model is trained, you can evaluate its performance in the simulator, which yields the percentage of the lap complete for each of your runs, plus the overall time it took to complete each run. If you like what you've done with your trained and evaluated model, you can clone it and start to tweak your configurations for increased performance, which is what I had stated just before. Once you have a model that's performing to meet your expectations, deploy it to the car and get started racing on the physical track, or compete with your model via virtual track events, which is exactly what we'll be doing. Accessing the console and building your first model. This video walks you through building and training your first reinforcement learning model in the AWS Deep Racer console using the console default settings. I think we did watch that.
Welcome back. Now that you've seen the car, learned how reinforcement learning is driving it, and watched me and Michelle race around the track, you're probably ready to get started. I bet you want to find out how to build and train your own models so that your car performs at or beyond the level of my performance, and that's great. But it's pretty difficult to accomplish that right out of the gate. You have to take a few small steps first. This section will walk you through a demo of building your first model using only the default options the service console provides. No tweaks or any fancy customization just yet. Join me while I walk you through this process in the AWS Deep Racer console. Feel free to follow along. First, navigate to the console. You can do this right from the AWS Deep Racer homepage at the URL you see here on the screen. After you select the button to create the model, you'll be taken to a screen where you'll see different sections for things like model details. So let's talk about those. This top section is where you equip your AWS Deep Racer with all the necessary services and permissions it requires to train and run smoothly and safely. If you want, you can get more information about what each of these resources do and how they all connect to AWS Deep Racer, or you can just click on the button to begin creating these resources. Next, choose an environment. There are a handful of options to choose from, which is great because it means you can expose your model to different tracks with varying degrees of twists and turns. Now, the action space is what defines the range of actions your vehicle can take, either virtually or physically. You tell it what its maximum speed should be, as well as its steering angles for left and right turns. Again, we'll get into all of this later, so just take a look, get comfortable, and if you're following along, just use the default settings to configure your speed and your angles. You need to help your model by specifying which actions to reward your car for taking. This happens via the reward function. Reward functions are what incentivize or reinforce particular behaviors. These rewards are the core of reinforcement learning. We'll get into reward functions later, but just look around in here and get familiar with the language. I'd recommend starting with the basic function first and then getting more advanced, but that's up to you. Same thing with algorithm settings. Now, I'm going to cover all of them later on in the course. I'll explain what hyperparameters are, including things like entropy and epochs, and how to tune them. But for now, just get comfortable with the language. For the first run-through, feel free to just use the default settings. Finally, before you start training, you need to tell your training job when it should stop. So you're going to set up some stop conditions. These are intended to help prevent runaway models that could incur costs if you don't limit the time they run for. Again, at this stage, you might want to just stick to the default settings, especially if this is your first time through the model building process. And with that, you can click on the Start Training button and watch as your model moves and reacts to the parameters you set for it. Pretty savvy, right? Well, congratulations! You just built your first model with AWS Deep Racer. Now, there's lots of room for improvement here, as you may have noticed. The trick is to slowly iterate on your model, making incremental changes that will eventually have a big impact on your car's performance. But before we go there, let's back it up a bit and dive more deeply into reinforcement learning and how exactly it helps to make this 1/18th scale racing car fully autonomous. That's coming up in our next course section, so stay tuned.
So that was a great synopsis by Blaine there, the longest video that we've seen yet, explaining how we're going to be using the Deep Racer console, and we'll be doing that together, just like last year if you were here last year. So here's that hands-on exercise, model training using AWS Deep Racer console. It's simply a download and unzip this course package. I would say just grab it from here. I'll try to share it if I can via the Discord. And that's another thing that I need to digress on, just for our benefit, was I didn't really go over the Discord for this year. So let me do that now before continuing forward. So here's the Discord here. It's very obviously very similar to the old one if you were here last year. I didn't delete the old one, it's still here. And in fact, if you're from the old one and you'd like a link to the new one, I can provide that now. I thought I had it before. Give me 1 second here. Yes. So this is a never expiring link. If you're on the old one, you can join the 2024 version. So what's cool about the 2024 version was we learned a lot from last year. So we have everything that you see from last year transferred over, but we also have events now. So not many people follow at the moment, but you can actually see that we have 4 events. We have the next workshop that's happening on March 30th, so I hope to see you there. We actually are hosting a Q&A session before our object avoidance competition, so that's also on there. And then what I should put on here, but it doesn't really matter because it's on the physical level, is we're meeting on June 1st, I believe. And Martin, just keep me honest if I said that wrong. But June 1st, I do believe is our physical meetup with the CIE DFW chapter. Okay, so now we have events. What you'll find here is just basic information like welcome and rules. I've shared some information there already. Some important files, as you can see, Martin has shared some information there. And any announcements. So this is actually going to be very very utilized when it comes to the race itself that we host. I'll be vigilant when it comes to checking the Discord and ensuring that everyone's informed on what's going on with the competition via this announcements page. So something that's also brand new is this text channel, Facts and Help. So this workshop is being recorded, and so will the next one. So if you weren't here and you're watching it back, and maybe you're having issues with logins and things like that, and you're not here on the chat, as I've been helping some of the students here, you can always post any of your frequently asked questions here, and hopefully I can help you either on the side just with some texts. Hopefully that can help. But we also have a one-on-one help area where we can do that as well. On a like just talking, and maybe you could share your screen or anything like that, where if it's like really complex or confusing. So thanks for joining. I think I saw someone join. Lily, thank you. So I'll move this to the side. And another thing that we're utilizing as well is we're having the racers, the team managers, and even race parents join. So even if your parents want to join, they absolutely can, and I'll be able to distinguish via roles who everyone is, right? So let me know, by the way, if you're a racer, like a student, or if your parents are in here, just feel free to DM me. You can literally direct message me, and then I'll just change your role as easy as that to do that. Because we want to keep it organized and ensure that the racers are in the right category and parents are in the right category this way. I don't have to ping everyone on the Discord in terms of an announcement. I can just ping the rightful and respective roles. Thank you. So let's jump in right into the coursework. I'm honestly not even going to open this. It didn't really benefit us last year, but please, if you want to follow on your own time again and watch this on your own time, you can open that up. But we're just going to hop into creating a model on the AWS Deep Racer console. So again, after let me just start over just in case, but let me go back to just AWS console home. You're going to go to services once more and just type in Deep Racer if you've never accessed it before, and you'll find it right there. But let's say that you've accessed it like me, you'll absolutely be able to see it under recently visited AWS Deep Racer. And this is actually another thing I wanted to mention before moving on. So you have 10 free hours per month. I forgot to mention that last year. Per month, every time that you use AWS Deep Racer. So we're part of the free tier, right? So we don't pay anything for these 10 hours, but after you accrue 10 hours within a month, you start paying for the service. So we're not going to do that at all. I've found it to be effective to train your model per hour on that per hour basis. Maybe you want to do 2 hours. So let's say that you're training your model for 2 hours. You'll have 5 opportunities to do that within this coursework or within the competition to do that, right? So the only hypothetical I could give you where you want to take this to the next level, let's say that if you enjoy this coursework so much, is that you start competing at like the AWS League level, then maybe you do want to start spending that money. And it does add up. So just keep that in mind. So again, we get 10 hours per month. So that's really cool to know, Martin. I didn't mention that before. So we'll be utilizing those 10 hours per month. Well, just for this month. And then actually, when are we hosting that next event? March 30th. So funny enough, I don't know if it's done with a fiscal month approach or like it resets on like the 1st. So we'll just keep that in mind for workshop 2 too. So don't go over 10 hours within the span until of April 20th, let's say. Okay, so the first thing that we do, and this looks a little bit different than Blaine, I think because we were on the virtual circuit. Okay, so this is actually the AWS Deep Racer, I guess, homepage. So here you're going to create a model right here. And then it gives you that same diagram that we've had before, right? Well, we can join the Deep Racer League, but really we're just going to do the basics, create the model, train and evaluate, and then do our own competition. So I'm not going to really read this. Simple enough. We're not going to take this course. In fact, I think we were already doing that course. So we're just going to skip to step 2 where we're creating a model. Okay. Oh, and that's kind of what I was regurgitating here. With AWS free tier, you will receive 10 free hours to train and evaluate your models and 5 gigabytes of free storage during your first month. And I'm almost pretty sure every month after that. Actually, they didn't regurgitate it correctly. Okay. So here's the create model overview. In reinforcement learning for AWS Deep Racer, an agent or the vehicle learns from an environment, the track, by interacting with it and receiving rewards for performing specific actions. The model training process will simulate multiple experiences of the vehicle on the track in an attempt to find a policy, a function mapping the agent's current state to a driving decision, which maximizes the average total reward the agent experiences. After training, you will be able to evaluate the model's performance in a new environment, deploy the model to a physical vehicle, or submit the model for virtual circuit. So the training details definitely need to be filled in. We'll go over this in a second, but I definitely wanted to go over this on a very foundational level and not confuse everyone. So obviously the agent is just another word for saying vehicle. Whenever you're creating like a reinforcement learning model, there's always an agent. It just happens to be the vehicle. There's always an environment. It just happens to be the track, right? So there's the reward, and then there's the state that the that the vehicle is in on the environment and the action that it needs to take to hopefully gain a reward within for that agent within that environment. And that's what the policy is. So like an example of a policy would be, if you remember from last year, staying within the yellow line, right? Like it's basically just a specific function within the reward function that rewards based on the specific policy, which is staying in the yellow line. Now we're going to be adding object avoidance, right? And you'll be able to see that within the code of the reward function, that there's going to be basically two policies that we need to cater to. So let's start off with a model name. I'm literally just going to call this whatever I want. So it'll just be called Anthony test. And then it's going to be a competition on object avoidance, as I keep saying. So I'm just going to call it OA, and I'm going to call it -2 because I already created a version of this just a couple of hours ago just to test, and we'll be able to see how that evaluated later on. But I want to also create one with you guys just for the demonstration. So here's that environment situation, or just a track, right? Just another word for a track. So I had chosen, I think for my first one, this ROS track, which is still pretty small, but what I liked about it is it has left and right. So I'm already going to give you a tip. You kind of don't want to choose an oval because obviously you have to go one way or the other, right? And if you're turning left too many times, if you're turning right too many times, you could actually train your model incorrectly where it just knows how to take rights all the times. So you kind of don't want to do that. Let's just try to choose a track overall that has a lot of turns, or at least a couple of turns. So one that looks interesting to me is this Pochun Speedway. Hopefully it's not too long. 68.8 meters. Oh, I can't really tell. I'd rather just go with this one, just because I'm used to it. And it is just an example anyways. So those are, look how many environments that you get to train on. I think what I did was clockwise, so I'll go clockwise again. And then tags are optional. You don't really need to use these at all. So if you remember from last year, if you're here from last year, we did a time trial run, but this time around, we're going to be doing the object avoidance. So object avoidance, the vehicle races on a 2-lane track, same as the time trial, with a fixed number of stationary obstacles placed along the track. Okay. So as soon as you click on that button, you'll actually see this whole UI change, this user interface. And then you get to choose the criteria of the objects itself. So there's going to be fixed locations and random locations. So fixed locations, objects are evenly distributed in fixed locations across 2 lanes along the track. The object's positions do not change from episode to episode. Training tends to converge faster when obstacles are in fixed locations, but such models might overfit and may not generalize well to real-world tracks. So this is that great example that I bring with Autopilot, right? It must be so difficult for the developers at Tesla to really tackle all of those specific situations that happen in real life, where you can have a dog walking across the street and it needs to identify those small objects versus like humans walking across the street, things like that. So we can have fixed objects on the road, and as soon as you finish a lap or an episode, those fixed objects don't change. I had vowed to not do that. You can do whatever you guys want. I like to choose random location because, in my opinion, if I'm building a model that I want to put on in a real world environment, it needs to be random, right? It can't just be fixed. But you can, again, this is just training. This is just whatever you want. So I chose random location. Objects are randomly distributed across 2 lanes along the track at the beginning of each episode. Training usually takes longer to converge for models to avoid obstacles in random locations that change from episode to episode. However, the trained models are more robust and generalize better to real-world tracks. So let me correct myself here. An episode is not a full circle around the track, which is a lap. An episode is actually the vehicle's start position and end position, even if it fails. So what I realized when I was training and evaluating this model only 2 hours or 3 hours ago was that anytime I was going off the track, the objects would actually reset as I reset back on the track to retrain. So sometimes I'd go off the track and there was an object maybe 5 meters in front of me. By the time I was off the track and I reset, the object was actually right next to my car. So sometimes that can actually give that episode or that next episode like a half a second of an episode because you hit that box right there. But I still thought overall after an hour's worth of training, it was still pretty robust. So just keep that in mind as well. So this is pretty cool too. You get to set the number of objects on the track. Let me go back to fixed location. If you wanted to do fixed location, you actually get to place where these objects are, right? So lane placement would be just outside or inside the lane. So if we could just see what that looks like. Oh no, I don't think you get to see, but that just means on the inside or the outside of the lane. And then the location percentage between start and finish. So if you just look at the track as like a whole 100%, 25% would be basically the quarter of the track. And then 50% would be half of the track. 75% would be 3/4 of the track. Okay, so just keep that in mind if you wanted to do the fixed positions, but since we're doing random locations, all of that goes away. So this is pretty cool. I have a finer understanding of PPO and SECC than I did last year. So PPO is just the policy network and value network that you get to use. I think this is really good for the finite time that we have for training. Whereas SAC, as you can read here, is not limiting itself to seeking only the maximum of lifetime rewards. This algorithm embraces exploration, incentivizing entropy in its pursuit of optimal policy. So what that really means in a nutshell is that instead of just using the two two neural networks of a policy network and a value network, which is more simplistic and kind of keeps it more of an environmental box, what you'll see with SAC is your model will want to explore even all of the failures that can happen and identify over a longer period of time that reward function after it explores all of the failures that it can do. A great example would be that YouTube video that I shared last year's on second workshop, where we were looking at that game Trackmania, and you saw all of the iterations and basically like those possibilities that the car could have taken even falling off the track, like, whatever, millions of times. So that would be very good, in my opinion, to use SAC if we had that unlimited amount of training capability and more than maximum of 10 hours. So we'll just stick with PPO. Hyperparameters will actually, again, go through in our second workshop, just like last year. So I'll have that ready for you later on. Right now, we're just going to default these to their defaults, or just leave these alone. So here's where we define the action space. Why is the action space important? In reinforcement learning, the set of all valid actions or choices available to an agent as it interacts with an environment is called an action space. In the AWS Deep Racer console, you can train agents in either a discrete or continuous action space. When training an AWS Deep Racer model, the action space defines what speed and steering angle combinations are available to the agent. An action is a single speed and steering angle combination or choice an agent can make. Okay, so I have a little bit of a finer understanding too, in my opinion, than last year of the action space. So as you can see, there's a continuous action space and a discrete action space. All this means is a discrete action space is a finite set that you set yourself. So besides the steering angle and the speed, you're giving that max. So if we increase this, there's more actions within the action list now because we're giving it a max speed of 3 meters per second. Where am I? I don't see that speed anywhere though. I thought I'd see it over here. Yeah, but if I set it to 1 speed, oh, okay, I'm sorry, it's speed granularity, not max speed. So the speed granularity is like 1/3 of each speed. So all the way to 1 meter. Oh, if I increase the meters per second, that's where the actions will increase. I'm almost certain. Oh no, we're just giving it it looks like 1.33 to 4 meters per second, rather than if we slow that down, we're just basically slowing the car down and giving it 3 sets of speeds to take depending on the degree of angle. So if we just do max granularity and max steering angle, I'm assuming that, yeah, the actions really go out of control. Well, not out of control, but like it gives you more actions in the list. Whereas you could just choose continuous action space and give your model the choice on what to take not dependent on the speed and not dependent on the steering angle. So this is what I went with, which is the continuous action space. So I like to keep it at the, when it comes to the steering angle, I like to keep it at the max 30 degrees, especially with object avoidance in mind. So I like to leave those as default. If we were to change this, and I think I did this last year, if we were to change this to 15, or I'm sorry, negative 15, you can see on the UI here, or the display, we kind of pigeonholed ourselves to that degree of angle, right? So I just chose instead to go to the 30 and the negative 30 in terms of to 30 in terms of that angle. So we have the max degree. And then again, see, with object avoidance in mind, I did a minimum speed of even defaulting to a more minimum speed than half a meter per second. And for a maximum speed, this is where you have to think about your environment. If you have a long straight or anything like that, I would try to go like a maximum of 3. But so far, I know that this is like a slower track, so I'm just gonna go like 2.5, right? So those are the things that you want to think about when you're setting this action space. So after that, we just choose a vehicle shell. It's really simple. Just the original Deep Racer. I think this is the only one we have to use. And then here's that important part, which is the reward function, right? This is the actual Python code that we get to tweak, and what you'll be graded upon on how well and effective that this is written. The default is honestly really robust from my understanding. It's not a lot more, but like a little bit more complex than just the time trial reward function examples that it used to give us. So as you can see, this is just that the time trial follow the center line type one. So that would be the policy, right? Is following the center line. Give a higher reward if the car is closer to that yellow dotted line, and vice versa. So that would be that area here. So what's different with this new object avoidance is we have a few setters here that are different, like object distance and next object instance, and then if the object is left of center. So I found that really cool to look at when it comes to this policy, which is just stay inside the borders of the track. So that's one policy, right? And then the next policy is to identify the distance to the next object and decide if the agent or vehicle of the next object is in the same lane. So if in the same lane, give it that reward depending on how close we are to that object, or the agent is to that object. So I found that really cool. Obviously, the more reward points are gained with how further away you are from the object. Okay. So again, this is all using what I like. What's interesting to me is that even in the RoboMaker virtual space, it's all identifying that with just like the virtual camera on the front of the car. Okay. So, and I think I explained this last time, but if I just did like an else here, this validate button would be incorrect. Yeah, and it would actually tell me where that syntax is that's incorrect if you were to tweak this around. So definitely utilize the validate button a lot more often. Here I can recheck it, and it says that my reward function code has passed. So just some explaining when it comes to the code editor. I wonder if there's a reward function for, yeah, there is an object avoidance one. I think this is the one that we're using though. Yeah, that looks that looks exactly like this one. Yeah, and it is. So we're just gonna keep that, but you can, within the coursework of the skill builder, when it comes to reinforcement learning and tuning up for a top finish, those are where you can definitely beat me out when it comes to the second workshop, where I get to teach you those different things and those hyperparameters. But you can tackle those yourselves if you really want to, and feel free to do so. So the last thing I think I need to, basically the last thing I need to go over is the stop conditions. So stop condition is really just the set condition for when your training should stop. You never want to overtrain, and honestly, we don't have the time to overtrain anyways with 10 hours worth. So I recommend going like 60 or 120 minutes, 1 to 2 hours of train time, and then what the stop condition does is automatically stop it at the end of that time. So I'm going to default it to 60. It trained really well. I think I ran through 7 iterations on this track. Um, with that amount of training. So this is another thing to think about. If you're choosing another environment that's a longer track, you may need to actually train for a longer amount of time to really see your model succeed throughout that entire lap. You're only going to be able to run a finite amount of laps, right, within that set amount of time, and calculating a longer track will be less amount of laps to take. So just keep all of that in mind. The next thing is automatic submit to the deep racer race. You don't need to do that. You don't need an email address for any league or prize notifications. You'll be fine without that. And then we're going to start creating the model. Okay, sorry. Samuel asks, how do we know if we're using ours while using it? That's a good question. I always thought it was just based on the training and evaluating. So really, it's just as soon as you press this button, and if it trains and evaluates, you're just gonna have to count in your head how many hours that you've utilized. So if you're training for a maximum of 2 hours, you only have 4 more times to train in that manner. But you can absolutely just go down to like you could even go down to 30 minutes if you wanted to, depending on how short the track is. That would be my recommendation, Sam. So hopefully that answers your question. So I'm gonna create the model at this point after checking out everything that is going well. This is where it just alerts us that the prize notification email is missing. Doesn't matter to us, so we're just gonna continue. At this point, you're gonna see the UI change once more, where it's going to be initializing the Robo Maker space, that environment, that agent, and then uploading basically our model into that agent, and then training it and evaluating it while we're waiting for that hour to finish. So we'll wait for this to finish, or at least we'll wait for it to initialize and we'll check back on it. But I actually wanted to show you one of my models already, which is this one. So basically this one was completed, again, 2 hours ago. And this is how it trained. I wonder, oh, it's only available during training, so we'll be able to see it soon. But you have all of your information here on your model. This is how well it trained. I thought it trained very well. We'll go over this with one of my slides here. So we'll just continue with this slide here. So what does good training / evaluating look like? I actually took the screenshot 2 hours ago. It's basically based on the reward graph. So as your model gets better and better trained, evaluation should also improve, as well as the reward functioning, right? The reward functioning should increase over time because your model is gaining that reward over time, right? This ensures that your model is learning correctly. The graph should first be a bit sporadic because of all of the mistakes that it's attempting to make and identifying that it's not being rewarded, and sometimes it is being rewarded, and then exponentially increase with more iterations, thus showing us the model is being positively reinforced. So that's what you want, right? You kind of want to see this. First of all, you want to see the red one, which is the evaluation progress, reach 100% of track completion. That would show that the model is being trained correctly. And as you can see, I have a best model here. And then average percentage completion within training, that really doesn't matter as much. That's just, there's a training aspect and then the evaluating aspect, which we'll see in real time in a second as we initialize my model that's being created. But the training portion is basically just the car learning and learning and learning, and then it'll go off track sometimes, and it'll understand it's not being rewarded, or it's being positively reinforced for good things that it's doing on the track. Then there's the evaluation, where you're letting the training kind of handle itself, and it's basically just going through an iteration or a lap around the track and ensuring that it's just being evaluated correctly. So basically, you just want to see this one. This doesn't matter as much, but obviously you definitely want to see it grow in terms of track progression. The reward, in terms of amount, doesn't necessarily matter, but I think the closer and also the higher that the red line is above the green, the more best model line will appear. So I kind of wanted to also display that here. As you can see, the completion was a little bit sporadic at the end for me. I don't necessarily know why, but the good news is the point system was good. See, as you can see, my best model was here at one point, but then it became over here just because, in my opinion, yeah, see, it's the track completion and how close you are to the rewards given. So it was giving, in fact, less rewards during this iteration, my 9th lap around the track, but it also completed the track in its best form, even with the least amount of not the least amount, but that average amount of rewards being handed to it. Okay, so just things to think about when you're watching the simulation go. So let's go back to my model. Hopefully it's being trained. Cool, it is being trained. Hopefully we can see that. So we'll wait a little bit while we look at this, but this is basically the end of the workshop. Let me just go over this last slide and then hopefully we can watch it. Hey guys, can you hear me? Oh, how about now?
Yep, I can hear you now.
Okay, sorry.
Yep.
I don't know why my headset turned off. I'm glad I caught it though. Okay, guys, did you hear everything that I said about the reward? I'm sorry, the training and evaluating, Martin? Did you hear this part?
Yes.
Okay. Whew. I was about to say that was a lot of information regurgitating. I was hoping you heard that. So I was basically saying, guys, this is the end of the workshop. I mean, I definitely want to see what the training looks like just to show you. Okay, perfect. So this is what the training is supposed to look like at first. This is what you should be seeing thanks to SageMaker. So as you can see, the reward graph is going to update as the evaluation and the training happens. And as you can see here on the map, you'll see the objects change even after the episode is complete, right? So here's an episode where it fails, and then the objects change. So that's just one thing I don't like about the random objects. Maybe take that into consideration when you want to do the fixed objects, because the fixed objects will stay in the same fixed locations every time that you fail an episode, every time that you finish a lap, things like that. So just keep that in mind. That's what this training looks like, not to take up too much of your time or the rest of your time. So how does this competition work? So we are hosting a competition. Again, let me check. It's on April 20th, 4/20. Same time as today, 2:30 p.m. Your guys' time, 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. So how does this competition work? The scoring will be based on, again, race time, but then also object avoidance. For each time you hit an object during the race, and I haven't checked if we can count this yet. So I'll have to get back to you and if this is the true racing criteria, but I'd love for it to be. For each time you hit an object during the race, we'll add plus 1 second to your race time. And then obviously the modeling and coding, but the modeling and coding, just like last time, is your model well written, well coded. Ensure that your model isn't just the boilerplate given by the AWS Deep Racer course. You're here to conquer the track and have fun coding, right? So we want to ensure that you're building models that won't just succeed at one track that you're training on. It'll succeed on, in all different types of environments. So we'd love to see that, and that's why, we only choose the track and you'll only get to know the track on the day of race day. Okay. So are there any questions or any comments that you guys want? Feel free to speak on the chat. Feel free to type on the chat. Let me guys know. I know there's only a few of you here. It's being recorded, so hopefully, again, you can ask that in the FAQs if you're just watching this back.
And we will host another Q&A session on April 13th. And I think this is a great opportunities when you adopt all the knowledge and only share today and train your own model. That if you have some come up some questions for the model training or for the competition, it is a great opportunity for you guys to raise those questions and get answers from us.
Got it. I see Ashton asked, how can we get a recording of this workshop, Martin? So I know for a fact after being done recorded, I'll have a link.
Yeah, I will work with the CIE webmaster to post this recording into our website after this workshop. And also I will send out the workshop recording to you guys through the email.
Cool. By the way, Martin, do you want me to end the recording now or should we just wait until?
Yeah, you can end the recording now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys a lot. You don't have to leave. I'm just ending the recording. I like to give a nice exit. So thank you guys, and the recording is gonna stop. Oh, that's actually stopped sharing. Stop recording. Okay, got it.